What's up, metalheads? Richie Cavalera of INCITE here, and you're watching That Metal Interview. Stay true, stay metal, and see you in the pit.
That Metal Interview.
So if I'm correct, and on my research, your schedule is online everywhere, so you must be on tour, right? First day.
No, we actually start in 3 days. We're missing the first 3 shows. Just scheduling, it kind of has some bands on some shows, others on, kind of like all random stuff going on. But yeah, we missed the first 3. Our first date is the 12th in Oklahoma City.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're bummed, but we're stoked, man. Everything looks cool. All the bands are, getting it going in Florida tonight. So we're super stoked to get on that.
Awesome. I'm in Texas, so hopefully I catch you guys somewhere here.
Yeah, we should see you, if not on this one, on the 6 Feet Under tour in October.
That's right. Wow. So how does it feel? I mean, being on tour, is this just another tour for you, or is there, what's different here?
Oh no, I mean, this is like the kind of tours you strive for as a band, to get and be a part of. There's thousands of bands fighting and clawing for these kinds of tours, and for us to be a part of it and be picked for it is such a true honor. It's just kind of like coalescing with everything that's going on with the band right now, with the new album and all the momentum we're building, and it's something that we've worked for our whole lives, and to finally be on a tour of this magnitude is incredibly special for us. And we're coming to drop bombs, throw nukes, and just bring so much energy to put all these other bands in a place to get these nights started, and it's gonna be cool.
Wow. So this is a job that it's not for everybody, or for just to put it in light words. I mean, you don't have your own bed. You sleep in a van, in a bus, maybe at a hotel. How is that for it? Can you talk about that side of touring for people that don't know what's going on?
Yeah, man. I mean, we've always kind of been like a do-it-yourself kind of band, like being our own crew, driving our own van, all that kind of stuff is just kind of who we are as people, and the kind of work ethic that we have as a band. We love each and every part of this, from traveling in the vans to, playing in wild countries in the middle of nowhere. It's just an experience that few get to enjoy. And, we feel so blessed being able to do it, and have, so many years of being able to, perform at this level, and be able to still have people give a shit. And, that all is just a special thing. And, there are hard parts, obviously, like you said, not sleeping in your bed, and, missing loved ones and family and all that kind of stuff. And, really just like the convenience aspect, you can wake up, go take a shower, do whatever you want at home. Out on the road, it's very, scheduled around your concerts, and, that's kind of the center focal point of everything you're doing. And, if you get a shower, that's awesome. If you get to eat, that's even better, but it's a special breed, man. I think that's kind of like been the thing that made a lot of guys in the early days of like starting this band, just not dig it. It's difficult. It's not for everybody. Everybody thinks it's like for them until they actually try it, and then you're like, damn, this is tough, but it's a beautiful thing at the same time.
Hey, you get to see the world. You get to tour the world for free. You get to see every part of the country, different parts of the world, or whatever, free. Some people, a lot of people, the majority of people are 9-to-5ers. They work at Walmart, they work at a corner store, whatever. They wish to have a life like you guys,
Oh, I feel that. Like I said, it's like every job. There's give and takes of everything that you can do in this world. It's having the not the security of knowing how much money you make, if making any at all. You know, like it gets crazy. But again, yeah, you meet a lot of incredible people out in the world. You know, you realize how small the world is and how interconnected we all are, no matter where you're at on this planet. You know, we all strive for like the same things, and that's one of my favorite parts about touring and, you know, getting to see the world.
Yeah, I missed you last time in San Antonio, Texas. I met the other guys in the band. I met two guys, but you weren't around. I don't know where you were at. You guys were playing at the Aztec Theater with Cavalera.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was selling merch for Cavalera that whole night after playing.
What would you be, Richie, if you weren't a musician? Have you thought about that? Would you be a pharmacist, a baseball player, or how do you picture yourself?
I mean, when I was really young, other than music, I liked, you know, I liked semi trucks. It was so weird, but I always loved driving and being out on the open road. And you know, I probably would have been like a bus driver or a semi rig driver, a bus, you know, company owner, something of that nature. I think that always like appealed to me when I was younger. But I think I'm doing exactly what I was meant to do, and that's really cool to like find that aspect, and then where like it can go from, you know, in the future of like what I want to do with my life, like, you know, maybe growing some weed or, you know, starting a restaurant or, you know, all sorts of cool things. But yeah, I definitely would have been into semi trucks. That was a big appeal to me as a young kid.
Nice, nice. Savage New Times, Richie, August 15th. The dumb question is, are you excited?
Oh man, I'm beyond excited. This is a lot of hard work, a lot of years, a lot of doubt, a lot of letdowns, you know, kind of like finally you know, making that turn. I think it's a great time for this band. It's exciting. I think we're introducing a style of music that's really fresh, really organic, really exciting. You know, it gets people really hyped. It feels different. You know, I think a lot of the music is kind of getting very similarized, and that happens, you know, when things get big, and we're just kind of that breath of fresh air kind of band, you know, like the Pantera and the Lamb of God, and that kind of like real staple heavy metal band that's able to like, you know, intertwine genres and create exciting music, you know, for the listener. And something I think people will relate to a lot on this record is the lyrical content, you know, the vibe, the attitude. It all just really has something special to it, in my opinion. You know, doing 7 of these things now, it's really cool, man. I'm excited for the world to hear the rest of it.
Yeah, we'll get into the music in a bit. I heard what us fans have heard so far, the videos and all that. You guys got some badass ideas. You guys got some thrash, some real nice. I don't know how to label it. It's thrash, metal, metal. Yeah. It's just metal, you know.
That's what we call heavy metal, man. It you know, everybody's like thrash. I'm like, yeah, where? You know, maybe a piece here and there, but you know, we like I say, intertwine so many genres so seamlessly, you know, from like Suicidal Tendencies to, again, like a Lamb of God, Pantera, to Machine Head, to, you know, even more obscure stuff like Deftones. And, you know, I think that's just a cool thing about us. We don't feel like we're caged into being a certain style or genre, or, you know, we got to do this. And I think that's what the breakout is, coming from Wake Up Dead to this album. You know, I think you're seeing that transition of us really harnessing our style and creating who we've kind of been trying to be since day one, you know.
So where does the title come from? Savage New Times. Whose idea was that? Or
Yeah, that was L, our bass player. He had an idea pre-recording this record. You know, I think each of us personal guys went through a lot of like, you know, family and personal hardship, relationship things that rattled all of our lives in terms of like our band, you know. And to him, it illustrated exactly that feeling, on top of like reading the lyrics and feeling the album out. You know, it just felt real, like a time that we've never felt, you know, a savage new time, a hard time, a brutal time, a time that's going to test you, you know. And it overall spoke to the whole message of this album, and I couldn't have been happier with with him, bringing that to the table. I love that about this band is that, everybody's opinion matters. Everybody has a say. And, I think that's how the great bands really came up with the great ideas, is from the whole thing being an involvement by everybody.
Nice. Speak of Dolores. I love the lead, the progression on there, the lead progression, the leads, the vocals, of course. Not because I'm talking to you, but for sure. I mean, you're badass, So, can you speak about that song, Dolores? What's going on there, and who wrote that? Those lyrics.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs. That was like Dolores was supposed to be the name of the Wake Up Dead album, but we had a lot of things happen, and it ended up working out so much better to be this song that was so powerful and so changing of who we are as a band. It's like our cemetery gates, is how I always like feel about it. Lyrically, man, it hit to a reoccurring dream I had as a child. Over and over, this dark dream of this, this forest and this woman and this house and all this stuff. It just kept happening. And as I got older, I started to reminisce about this feeling and this dream and this hauntingness I had. And when the time came and Lennon and Lane, created this incredible music, I knew I had to have something that pushed the boundaries of what our topics had been in the past. This is more of that love, darkness, spiritual kind of thing that I think everybody kind of feels at some point in their life. This kind of woman entity that is so powerful you don't know how to describe the what they do to you. So I was able to put it down and create an incredible story about what I felt and saw as a kid. And it was just what a cool track to make for us. I think the melody and the black metal feel to it really worked for us. And growing my vocal performance so much from album to album was really fun, to get to explore this side of me that I haven't really got to do on an Incite record. And I'm glad people are feeling it as deeply as we did when we made the track.
How about speak of Just a Rat? What is that about?
That again kind of attributes to relationship kind of vibes. I went through some hard ones, and I think some of us did. And, it also attributed a lot to just kind of the time of society right now, this everybody just feeling so ruthless and very ratty, out for themselves, thievery feel, and
right.
I think again that's what works so great about this album and the lyrical content is it's so relatable to anybody in so many different ways. I had my vision of what it is, but a lot of people have been taking it this way or that way, and that's what I find when an album's really special, when the lyrics are on point, but it's vague enough to where anybody can really put their relatable circumstance to it. And yeah, I mean, Rat, it just speaks to shitty people around you that only care to better themselves and their experience.
Right. There's always a rat somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's true as fuck. Always trying to steal the cheese, man.
So we all know who your parents are. I mean, who your brothers are. A very extremely famous family in the metal business. Max and Gloria. I met your mom before. They're in San Antonio. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Max, but how is that being raised with the Cavaleras? A very famous, as I said, a famous family. How was that for you as a kid?
Man, I mean, a completely blessed, humbling, grateful, role modeled existence for sure. I mean, just looking back to the start of my mom, being a single mother, independent, very poor, struggling to figure out, what life was, and having 5 kids at the same time. She's an incredible force and a powerful role model, inspiration. And that kind of is where it began. I think having that kind of work ethic and strength presented to you as a child is really, something that can't be, replicated. And that was a great thing. And then, her introducing like the metal into our world, from bands like Atrophy and Sacred Reich to, Flotsam and Jetsam and Jason Newsted and all this kind of stuff that just kind of started happening and coalescing and growing into like Max and Sepultura and, Cavalera. And now it's just really about, growing the legacy, growing our influence in heavy bands, like, beyond that. Even I think that's where, me and like INCITE brother Igor kind of are creating that, this new essence of what Cavalera can be. It's heavy, it's metal, but it's young, it's fresh. It can reach places, that maybe it couldn't before. And that's special to be a part of something like that. And, being a part of 2 people that really came from nothing, even Max from, the depths of Brazil and, all that. So incredibly lucky, incredibly blessed, and always thankful. And, just want to continue, growing that best I can, and respectful, and, keeping a good reputation like we have around the world.
You have for sure. You got some badass music, and you're doing a great job. Does Max or Gloria have any influence on your music, or do they call you and say, don't do this, do that, or erase Just a Rat, or what, anything like that?
Gloria, for sure. I think I looked at her a lot when I was young in the business aspect. I think a lot of us don't understand how incredibly business related music is. You kind of get into it to just be like, oh, I want to play, I want to rock and write music. And, then the next thing you know, 80% of it is business related rather than even music. So that was something I was able to really be fortunate enough to watch someone that literally created the game of metal, in terms of the business world. I mean, contracts, everything, the way it works, she was a part of starting that, and to have that kind of upper hand for me was incredible. I learned a lot very, very fast, and really got to grow and understand it. And, Max more like I kind of learned from him by watching. I was always intrigued by how he was able to harness a crowd. I mean, his second he walks out there, he's every single person in that place in his hand, and that's powerful. That's a whole different kind of magic, as you want to say. It's like to see that and get to grow learning about interaction like that way. And the music aspect was really just me and my guys. It always has been us creating, what came to our mind, what inspired us. And, I love, coming to Max when our album's done and jamming it for him, and kind of being afraid that he's going to steal some riffs, but like, it's cool to have his feedback of being like, oh, this is a cool song or whatever, because obviously he's done it all. He's created it all. He's influenced it all. So very lucky to have the 2 perspectives always when going into a situation,
Back to your album, Richie. You got the cover. You got 3 red eyeballs there. An awesome album cover there. First of all, who's the artist? And do you call him and tell him what you want, or you know what, I want 3 eyeballs on there, or what?
So I think a big thing with INCITE has always been our cover work. Going back to like the Up in Hell record, and Dan Seagrave jumping on board, one of the best ever. And then Andre Buzikov doing Built to Destroy. It's always been huge for us. So with this record, we wanted that. We wanted something classic, though, something that would stand the test of time. I think all of our covers are great and they're incredible and rare, but this had to meet the music and everything else about it right now. And we went to Marcelo Vasco, who's done Slayer and Deicide and Soulfly and Kerry King and I mean just so many metal bands, and his interpretation always is so incredible in my opinion for being real, no way AI bullshit, you know, really done by an artist. And he asked that we kind of send him the ideas of this record, send him the lyrics, send him the music, and he just kind of ingested it, and we let him fully take the cover where he wanted. We just said, you know, like, here, man, this is the music. Create what this does to you, you know, and that's what I think you do. You know, we're music writers. He's an artist. You know, I only want to give him inspiration so he can do what he does. And when we saw that, that was the first thing he sent us, and it was we our jaws just dropped. You know, it was perfect. It reminded us of flipping through a vinyl shop and finding a cover of a band we probably never knew, but damn, it just blew us away and had that like Hellraiser, Prometheus kind of you know, feel to it. Just very, very savage, I guess, is what El said when he first saw it. And you know, and then he reissued, created us a new logo as well. And you know, we're very, very thankful. And I don't think it could have been a better record cover for this album. You know,
Awesome stuff, killer.
Oh,
Are you the main lyricist, Richie, or does?
I like everybody kind of writing their parts. You know, Lennon and Lane started with the music and the structure, and you know, growing from there, and then you know, me and El kind of listening to that and giving our ideas, and then I formulate the lyrical structure. And you know, I think that's important if you're going to be up there singing and expressing emotion. I feel it's always had to be your own words, you know, or your own riffs, and that just puts more heart into it. And you know, I think it's been fun to see how I've grown my lyrics over time, from you know, a 19-year-old angry kid that didn't really know to a honed in, very, very decisive on what he wants and how it's delivered.
You mentioned the word angry. Were you angry, or are you just describing a teenager?
I mean, yeah, I think at 19, 18, that's kind of all of us as men. You know, it's a changing. You're coming out from this world of everybody telling you what to do, and you're very, you know, pent up on frustrations and everything else. So I think that's why I'd come out with a song, you know, that states "I am here to kill you." You know, it's like, you know, that first record I think was very, you know, very angry and young, and you know, just kind of like I think any adolescent really feels deep down.
Obviously, we've seen several band member changes over the years, right? For Incite.
Yeah.
You guys, again, I'll praise you guys again. You guys sound killer. What I've seen on YouTube and what I saw live. Would you say this is your dream lineup for Incite, or is there a weak link in there somewhere?
Oh no, this is the one. I mean, me, Lennon, and El now have been together, you know, 13 years, 4 albums. I mean, it's pretty much been the whole band, the 3 of us. So that stability has created the ability for us to become where we are now. You know, I think it was about finding that 4th guy and having that weak link for so many years, controlling a lot of it. You know, he was able to, you know, push his ideas around very easily with us, you know, and that just got to a point where it's like, you know, no way, you know. And guys before that, they really helped grow the band to where it became, you know. But I think having the 3 of us really solidified for all those years, and finally finding, you know, Lane Richardson, I think was a true gift. And that's really, I think once you find the guys that need to be together to do it, it happens. You know, I think once he came in the band, it was like, we got a guy that's as humble as us, hardworking, fun, laid back, loves everything about touring and writing and all of this stuff, and then has this incredible musical influence. I mean, you know, Dolores is, you know, a song that he really mainly wrote. You know, even the piano, he played it, and the 12-string guitars and acoustics and all this stuff. His leads, I think, are some of the best I've heard in a long time in terms of music and guitar playing and heavy metal. And then you have, like, you know, his style on stage, and the tone of his guitar is just nasty, man. So I'm blessed that we are right where we need to be, and definitely not a weak guy in this band. And I think people are going to see that here in the next couple days with Summer Slaughter and, you know, everything past that. We're probably one of the hungriest, focused bands in the world right now. I truly believe that. and we're tight.
For sure. For a brand new fan, Richie, for somebody just barely discovering Insight, which album would you point to for them to start off as a new fan? Or would it be the new one, or would you point to an older one?
I mean, obviously, yeah, this album is everything that we are. I think it's the excitement, it's the energy, it's the freshness, it's the fun, it's the like, damn, it has like swag to it. It's something cool. And I think that, but I think if they even go to check out like an album like Wake Up Dead, I think that's really where we began to evolve into this thing that we are now. And, songs like Deadbeat are fucking incredibly dope, especially if you remember the pandemic, and a song like Wake Up Dead itself is just an absolute ripper. And adding on that album, we put like 5 old school tracks that we all loved, and I think it really gives everybody a good taste of what we are and who we are, and lets them form like, hey, I'm gonna like this band, or fuck this band, they suck. So definitely check Dead to get your start.
Give us your 4 favorite albums of all time.
Oh, that's a good one. Deftones, Adrenaline. I'd say Metallica, Ride the Lightning. I'd say Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. And I would go Faith No More. And I'm not exactly sure of the title of it, but it's Mike Patton's first record. That would be my top 4 albums.
Oh wow, that's a wide variety of rock metal. Wow, nice.
Yeah, man, that's something about me too. I think that's why we're a little different, man. As we listen to so much different shit, as a band, as individuals, and that really creates different ideas that we're able to play with.
So you guys listen to different kinds of music? Is that what you're saying, or?
I mean, from reggae to to instrumental to industrial, alternative, like everything, man. We're a band that loves that, just good music, and I think that's something why we are able to create different feeling music than everybody else.
Did you guys already rehearse for the tour, or do you guys not rehearse anymore?
Oh no, we're doing that now. We usually don't, but this tour, we're breaking out a lot of new music, and that's usually when we like to rehearse and tighten up things for the year ahead, and we're not a band that sits there and practices our moves and all that bullshit. We're very organic, and we don't say the same lines, we don't do the same shit. But new songs, I think, is always a good time to get together and rehearse a couple days and make sure they feel as tight as they do on a record.
After this tour, before I let you go, Richie, after this tour, what's on your plan book here for the band?
Yeah, we got the album coming out August 15th after this tour wraps up. We're going to kind of just be celebrating that moment, taking it in, enjoying it. And then a few weeks after that, we start the 6 Feet Under US tour. Going to be an incredible tour. 6 Feet Under, they don't tour often in America, so get out, go see that. We're going to be fucking it up, and then onward, upward from there, man. A lot of Europe and South America and back to America. It's going to be crazy, man.
Awesome. So thank you for your time, Richie. I appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
We'll see you sometime soon in Texas.
Hell yeah. Thanks, brother. Have a good rest of your day, man.
We truly hope you enjoyed our chat with Richie Cavalera of the Arizona metal band INCITE. And that is spelled INCITE. And it's truly some awesome heavy metal for us fanatics, right? So thank you, Richie, for making time. And don't forget, August 15th of 2025, their new album drops, Savage New Times, Raining Phoenix Music, RPM Records. So pick it up. You can pre-order. Log on to their socials, INCITE INCITE. So catch them on tour. Again, look for their socials where you can find their tour dates. And of course, later this fall, they will be touring with none other than the legendary 6 Feet Under. Listen to that. So catch them where you can, support them, purchase merchandise. So thank you, Richie. Thank you for making time and chatting with us about your new album and revealing your 4 favorite albums. So check out the interview to see what that is, what those albums are. As far as the listeners and supporters, Thank you for downloading, streaming, liking, ringing the bell, subscribing, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. Thank you for all your support on behalf of your friend James from the state of Texas. And don't forget to keep it metal.
That metal interview.